You're listening again. A legend in his own mind. Don't believe me? Just ask him. Here's Tom Schmitz live on WOCA. The Source.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks on a Wednesday. Joining me now in studio from the College of Central Florida is Lauren Carr. She's the director of corporate college. Lauren, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Corporate college.
Corporate college.
College went corporate, so now we have bureaucracy and corporate problems.
Not
College
quite.
went corporate.
Not quite. So we do corporate training. We are a small division of the college, and we do non-credit focused training, workforce education.
So when you say you do corporate training, you train people to get into the workforce.
So we train people who are already in the workforce.
Okay, continuing ed then.
Yes, although that's a little different term. So what I primarily do is I work with organizations, which is where the corporate comes in, to train their existing employees, their incumbent workers. So we're either enhancing their skills, shoring up their skills, teaching them something they already know but need recertification for, that sort of thing.
So then let me read between the lines. Mm-hmm. You help people navigate things like Adobe products.
Yep.
You help people navigate things like bookkeeping products and
Yep.
stuff like that. Okay, now I'm starting to get a grasp of what we're doing. So you help people because teaching yourself Excel for Dummies is difficult.
It can be, yes.
Photoshop can be difficult.
Uh-huh.
How to set up a PowerPoint presentation can be difficult to teach yourself.
Absolutely.
These are the things you're talking. These are the types of things you're teaching.
Absolutely. And we do those things for organizations who either don't have the training power themselves or don't know where to begin or don't have the time to deal with it because so many departments are short-staffed. You know, they don't have time to stop what they're doing and train their employees.
Because people don't realize, once you get good at some of these things, especially the Adobe products, some of those products, like Excel is one of your best friends if you know how to use it properly.
You can say that about any software.
Well, certainly. But Excel, I love Excel because Excel takes the math out of it.
Yes.
If you set Excel up properly, it can give you a P&L at the end of the month, and all you've done is entered the data.
Automated.
Excel did it for you.
Yep. You can graph against it, everything.
Everything. So, and why is it that CF saw a need to go into this avenue of education?
Well, CF has been around for about 64 years now, and we've had non-credit continuing education for nearly that long. Corporate training came, I would say within the last 20, 25 years with the new corporate universities that were created. And so we've been doing that. But there's some differentiations when it comes to non-credit. So back in the day, non-credit continuing education was things like driving lessons and Spanish lessons,
Underwater basket weaving.
You got it. Motorcycle classes, things like that was called continuing education. And we had everything under the sun, lifelong learning sort of things. And corporate training was just a small piece of that. Nowadays, corporate training is taking the spotlight, and organizations are trying to elevate the skills of their workforce.
Now, so this is on an as-needed basis that organizations come in and they work in concert with you to train their employees. So this isn't something that's like a weekly scheduled class for students or anything.
Right.
This is geared towards each individual group you're working with.
Right. So think of
and
it
their
as,
needs.
Correct. So think of it as a just-in-time training. So whereas traditional college for-credit programs operate on a term or semester basis, fall, spring, summer, non-credit runs year-round and whenever it's needed. So if you said, hey, my station needs some training in presentation skills or speaking skills, we can do that for you. And it can be as long or as short as you need it. It could be ongoing. It could actually supplement your training department, so we could come in and take the place of let's say your trainer for different reasons. It's really flexible, unlike the credit side.
Now, is this something that is done on campus only, or is this something where you can do outreach and you actually go to the individual businesses and organizations and hold the seminars or the teaching classes there?
We pride ourselves on our flexibility. We are very flexible. And when I say unlike the credit side, I don't want to sound negative on the credit side, because there's a place for credit education, absolutely, in traditional education. But non-credit prides itself on flexibility. We can come to you. You can come to us, and when you come to us, we have several campuses that you can take advantage of. You can go to our Levy campus, Citrus. We've got a beautiful vintage farm that you can do training at, the Hampton Center, on and on. So we have flexibility in the venue, in the length of training, in the content of training. Oh my gosh.
Class
format.
size.
Oh, yes. But people get we call ourselves customized training a lot. People get the feeling that customized equates to dollars, and it doesn't have to be expensive at all. So when they say, well, how many people do you need to have a custom class? Well, it really depends on the topic, because if you're trying to prepare for a certification, those tend to be lengthy. And the longer they go, the more expensive they are, because you got someone, going 80 hours.
Certainly.
But we can just about do anything, and flexibility is the name of our game.
So you not only do software teaching and everything, but you do certification teaching.
Oh, yes.
All along those lines, you know.
Yes.
Like I just found out that there's something called a Sigma black belt and everything in
Lean
corporate
Six
world.
Sigma, yes.
Right. My wife, I had no idea,
Yeah.
is a six degree Sigma black belt.
Wow. That's impressive.
I don't know what that means. You seem to be impressed with it.
That is impressive.
To me, I don't know what it means.
That's education, and it's proof that you know it by doing a project. So that's impressive.
Well, she was brought here. She was hired away from a company in Houston to come here to be second or third at Chewy. And then she left Chewy and opened her own shipping business and everything. But these are the type of things that we're talking about that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
There's a 6 degree Sigma black belt or something. But that's the kind of education stuff you're talking about. That's not credit education.
Correct.
It's corporate education.
Right. And it complements the credit side. So we do accounting. Credit side does accounting, but we don't focus toward a degree as the end game. We give knowledge.
Right.
And we try
QuickBooks can be hard to navigate.
Right.
Or other software can be hard to navigate.
So we try to get to the source, the end of the result, let's say,
Right.
quickly. So if you need accounting training, we try to hone in on exactly what areas you're having trouble with, so we give you just that, and then we try to understand who's going to be there, so we know what their levels are, and we include that stuff in there. Sometimes it's best paired with Excel, so they understand how to use the software, and QuickBooks, because that, if you don't understand accounting, it's hard to navigate accounting software.
Certainly. Now, is this something, because of the uniqueness of how you have to do this, is this something that before you come up with that you have to come up with a game plan on how to do this to help organizations? So you have to go out and you have to do the research to find where they're deficient and where they do most of the bosses at these organizations know where their deficiencies are, or is that something you help them with too, in recognizing where their deficiencies could be?
Right. Some are more in tune with their needs than others, and we try to help them navigate that. So what I do is, we'll call it an interview. I meet with them, and I bring my experts along, and we talk about why are we doing the training? Is there an issue? Has there been an accident? Are there errors? What's going on? Is there new technology? What's the problem? Why are we here today? And we talk through that. You'll be surprised. I would say maybe about 10% of the time, they think it's one issue, and after talking, it turns out to be an entirely different issue.
That they didn't recognize.
They didn't recognize it because, like, for example, one company told me we have communication problems. Nobody knows how to communicate. We need to talk. We need communication training. So we get in there. We started talking to the powers that be. It turned out there was just animosity between the players, and they just didn't like each other.
They didn't like each other, so they shut down.
That was a totally different training session.
Right. That's a completely different issue.
So we have to get to the root of the problem to give them what they really need, so they'll be successful. And we did our job.
Is that so? You have a team that does that. Are they separate from the team that actually teaches the classes, or are they one and the same? Is it a team? Is it a team effort from your end?
It's funny that you said team. We are a 2-person shop. It's myself and Lucy Torman is my coworker, and the two of us go out and we conduct these interviews. We can do them in person, virtually, whatever. And once I know what the topic is, accounting, software, OSHA, whatever, then I bring my expert with me so we can really get down to the nuts and bolts, because just like you don't know all there is to know about Lean Six Sigma, I don't know everything there is to know about every possible training, and so I bring my experts with me. So my team are my instructors, my coworker, and that's what makes us up.
It sometimes the expert part of it is where the issues lie, because it's hard to find people that are expert. A lot of people say they're experts. What is the process that y'all go through to identify and come up with relationships with the experts to help you make this a successful corporate education?
Sure. Many of our instructors are business people, so they're doing what they're training every day.
Right. Their day job is they actually are doing what
Correct.
they're training people to do every day.
Correct. So if I need someone who's, going to teach financial spreadsheets or, financial applications or something like that, I want someone who's in business, probably in a finance department and so forth. And I look for experience more than credentials. So I don't necessarily need a degreed person to teach a class. I usually look for the experience. Have they been doing it? Is it current? And maybe do they have the credentials as in certifications?
My mother never sat for the CPA test. She was a bookkeeper. She worked for a CPA. But he will tell you to this day, and my mother's long past, God rest her, but he'll tell you this day, she was the CPA.
Yeah.
He just signed things.
Yeah.
because she
of
had
her
done
experience.
it from the time she was 16
Right.
till her death. All she did was bookkeeping and
Numbers.
accounting.
Yeah.
That's all she did. His famous quote was, Bob's famous quote was, "Your mother's forgot more about accounting than I'll ever know." And he was a certified public accountant, had a degree in accounting. My mother had a degree in hard knocks. She didn't have an accounting degree,
Yes.
but she knew more about accounting. And that's what you're talking about. You don't necessarily have to have the paper on the wall.
Right.
Applicable experience goes a long way in helping.
Correct. Correct.
You brought up OSHA, so y'all do safety if there's safety issues and all.
Yeah.
You go and look into that as well.
Sure. And I wanted to say that earlier when you touched on it. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing to list what we can do, because once you start listing things, you start putting yourself in a box.
You pigeonhole yourself.
Yep. So you've heard me say accounting, Excel, QuickBooks, OSHA, leadership, things like that. So those are the things that you think I can do. But my instructors do more than just teach. They can work as consultants. They can work as facilitators, motivational speakers.
Certainly.
They can walk through and do an audit, a safety audit, and see what's wrong in your company before OSHA gets there. So we're pretty broad.
You can send them into restaurants and show where the shortcomings are coming in restaurants.
Exactly.
Why they're losing money in restaurants and everything.
You've heard it where kids don't take advice from their parents because they're almost too close to it. Mom, dad,
Right.
whatever. But if you bring in somebody else who's an expert, all of a sudden people perk up again. Oh,
Right.
This is someone different. What do they got to say? So there's all kinds of reasons why we enter an organization, not necessarily to do training, but sometimes it is training, but consulting, motivational speaking, facilitation, pitching a new initiative. How many times do you change your outlook on your company and you want to give it a fresh perspective, start a totally different thing? You bring someone else to get people psyched
Different
up.
set of eyes, different way to
Exactly.
approach it.
So there's a lot of things that we do, as small as we are, and we really try to hone in. One of the best examples I love to give is that we come in and we cut out all the nonsense, all right? So I'm giving you just what you need, just the people that need it, just in time for what they're doing. And I try to get them to bring their work to my class. So, for example, let's say they're doing Adobe Acrobat, and that product can take physical forms and make them electronic.
Right.
Okay, so bring those things with you to class, data, processes, forms, what have you. Bring it to class. You'll work with it in class. You'll understand how to do it. You'll have real life questions because you're working with work you recognize. Then when you leave, not only do you take that document with you and you hit the ground running, but you don't have to think about it. You've already learned it. You're already using it.
And something that just popped in my head, and I'm sure that you already know this. Now, once I learn it from these classes, I can go back to the beehive and teach it to the other worker bees.
Yeah. And it makes more sense because it's applicable to what you do. You recognize it for
I can
one
talk
thing.
to them in the way that we're working and what we're doing, applicable to what we're doing.
And the best part of that is, when you've been to training, you get all psyched up. You're so excited, 2 or 3 days at the hotel, you're ready to go. You get back and you're behind.
Yeah.
Mounds of work. So you put your training aside, you forget about it, and you go back to your old routine.
Right.
And we try to keep that from happening by bringing in the real stuff, the stuff that you're used to working with.
You keep talking about motivational speakers and public speaking and everything. Sometimes I take that for granted. Because I do it every day. Somebody tried to get me involved with Toastmasters, which is a very good group around town.
Yes.
for public speaking. They were like, you need to come to Toastmasters. I go, no, I don't. They're like, no, you really need. I was like, no, I can speak. I do it every day. For 3 hours a day, I get paid to run my mouth. I've done stand-up comedy. I can get up in front of a room of 20 of my best friends or 3,000 people I don't know, and it doesn't make me sweat. I don't break out in sweats or anything. But sometimes I take that for granted, that there are people that's a huge ordeal for them.
Yes.
To get up, and sometimes to get up in front of your coworkers to talk and to run a project is much more difficult than to stand in front of 3,000 people you never met in your life and talk.
And Tom, you hit on something, because public speaking or any other subject, we a lot of times assume people know things. You're in the public eye. Surely you must know how to public speak. Well, that's not necessarily true. And just because you do your job well on the floor doesn't mean you translate to a good supervisor.
Right.
And just because you've been doing accounting all your life doesn't mean you know accounting. It just means we are assuming you do.
Right.
So there's all kinds of reason to do training.
No, I would not be a good supervisor.
Now,
I'll be the first person to tell you. I ran restaurants for 20 years.
Wow, that's hard.
My employees will tell you that when I was in a good mood, I was the greatest boss ever to work for. When I was not in a good mood, they really wanted to kill me. And I was not in a good mood a lot. But it was a different time back then.
Sure.
Restaurants have evolved. And that's what this education, you, through education, help companies evolve as well.
Yes.
Because a lot of companies, you either evolve or you die.
Yeah.
And the restaurant industry 20 years ago was more Gordon Ramsay than Gordon Ramsay is.
Yeah.
The restaurant industry is not that way anymore.
Yeah.
You don't scream at people. You don't throw things at people. You don't cause a scene in the kitchen.
Right.
But that's something that you have to learn if you're an old school restaurant guy or girl. That's how it was.
Yeah,
you worked
things
90
change.
hours a week and you screamed at people.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you did.
Change is constant, whether it's the technology or the way we do things or the culture, like you talk about. You have to stay on top of things. And you work hard to find a new employee, right? You write the job description, you put the best ad in the paper, you interview a slew of people, and you get the perfect person. But then what happens to them over time? They need maintenance and upgrades, just like equipment and software, right? So they get underqualified over time. And that's just as bad.
And that's a great way to look at what you're saying. It's maintenance of the workforce. That's what you do. You offer companies
Correct.
maintenance for their workforce.
Keep their skills sharp. You get too comfortable in your job, chances are competition is passing you by.
Yeah, complacency leads to loss. When you talk about class size, can it be anywhere from one person to hundreds of people?
It absolutely can. And to give you an example, we did one-on-one training with a manager who was having trouble in her organization, and it really was her customer service skills that needed some shoring up, rubbing people the wrong way and whatever, and we did one-on-one training with her. So it doesn't have to be a huge group. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's just very targeted, so we don't waste time that way. Instead of putting, there's a place for canned training. Let's say you don't know anything about Excel and you need to start at the beginning and go through the whole book. Okay, that's canned training. But let's say you've been using it for a while and you're only having trouble with this thing, and this thing. Then that's what we cater to. We don't waste your time with an entire class. And so by doing that, then we can hone in on other things. Now that you know these things, give us an example of what you do. Let's tie it into something specific for you that you understand. And then by doing that, we make it more robust, more valuable for your company.
And they do not do that in credit education.
I won't.
Because,
yes,
I'll give you a prime example.
I think you're correct because
I'll give you a
it's
prime
more
example.
set.
I know how to speak English. I know how to write English. I've read the classics. I didn't need to take 2 Englishes in college, but I had to.
Yeah.
I know biology. I know chemistry. I did well in high school. That was not going to be my endeavor. I didn't need 2 lab classes of biology or geology, which I took. But credited education said I had to.
Right. So what you're talking about is the curriculum.
Right.
That's already built.
That's already built in.
Correct.
Whereas you build curriculum for the individual needs at that moment.
Correct. Or the unit or
Right.
the group or whatever.
Right. Curriculum's built for each individual situation.
Correct.
It's not a syllabus that's handed to you. This is what you do in 4 years.
Yeah.
You complete these credits, you get a degree. You are creating a curriculum that is unique for every situation you're teaching.
Right. And because we customize it, because we're so flexible, no class is the same class. Because if I do graphing, let's just say I teach you how to graph using Excel software, I could cater it to a sales group, show them how their data, how they present their data can help them with sales.
And it's something they understand because it's their data.
Exactly. We've had companies
You're not
that let
using you're not using theories or theoreticals.
No.
You're using actual data from that company,
Right.
so they can see it in real time. And it's probably an eye-opener sometimes.
Yes, and because they're familiar with the data, it makes more sense.
Right.
If I give you a list of numbers, you might be able to say, oh, yes, I see what you're talking about, but it makes more sense if it's your data. We actually did that with a company. We had done project management training, and this was Microsoft project, so it was the electronic version, the software, and they brought their data got company approval, and they actually set up their project management system. So again, it was done when they left. They're already using it. It's real-time data. They're asking questions about things that go wrong. So it's so valuable. It's so customized just for them.
How is it that you brought it up a couple times? Take me down the realm of motivational speaking being part of continuing this kind of education.
So you want an example. So let's just say, oh gosh, there's so many examples. So we had at the college, we were getting ready to rewrite our vision and mission statements. We brought someone in to help get us motivated to have that conversation as a group. And there might have been maybe 60 to 80 managers, directors, deans, VPs in the room. And so we talked about, what are we trying to do? And by getting back to why we go to work every day, we want to change lives. We want to better these people so they can go on and do big things. That person motivated us to write a mission statement. How mundane is that? But that person got us energized, got us refocused,
right,
got us thinking about what we're trying to do that day.
And that's what I was hoping you'd come up with. You'd tell me, is it motivation? People say, how's motivational speakers help educate you? Because it refocuses you. Sometimes a voice from somebody that has nothing to do with what's going on, but a fresh set of eyes, just them speaking about things you understand can get you motivated to do great things.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes that's lost on people. They think motivated as a speaker, and they think you're walking on hot coals, and you listen to Tony Robbins. And don't get me wrong, Tony Robbins is very good at what he does.
And there's a place for that.
There's a place for that.
Sure.
But sometimes the motivational speaker just needs to stoke the fire of the powers that be
and get you thinking.
To get them thinking.
And look at things in a different way. We've done retreats too. We lead retreats as well. We get
team
people
building
away.
stuff.
Absolutely, team building stuff. We can do crazy stuff. We can do as crazy as you want, as hands-on as you want. We can do ropes courses and things like that. We could play games in the classroom. We can absolutely change the format to get people involved and to think.
We're speaking with, I got to get my glasses on so I get this right. I know it's Lauren, but Lauren Carr, she's the director of corporate college at the College of Central Florida, and it's a non-credit learning.
We're the non-credit side of the house, correct.
And you is it only businesses, or do you help any organizations? Like, would you help
any
churches and nonprofits and anybody that an organization that feels like they have a problem or need more education to better their situation?
Any industry.
Any industry.
Yes, across all sectors. So we can work with CareerSource, Citrus League of Marion, for example, to be a training provider so that they can go out and do a youth build program that will teach them how to build houses and tooling skills and so forth.
Well, it's something that I didn't know existed, but it makes all the sense in the world. Tell people how they can find out information about it.
Well, you can either visit our website at cf.edu/corporate college. You could write us at corporatecollege@cf.edu. Or if you're the old school type and want to call, we're at 352-873-5855.
Lauren, thanks so much for coming in and giving us this information.
Thank you for having me.
That's going to bring to an end this version of Ocala Talks. You're listening to 1370 AM, 96.3 FM. Same time tomorrow, right back here on WOCA, The Source.